All right, guys, I think I've got 901. Are we ready to dig into this?
Yes, sir.
Like that.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Morning, Commissioners. We do have some public commenters this morning, two of them on the public comment session, and then one later on for item number 9. Public comment session, we have Geneva Rivas. And if you could just unmute yourself and introduce yourself, go ahead. I think I did see.
Good morning.
There you go.
Yeah. Hello, good morning.
Go ahead. Please introduce yourself and begin.
Yes, I apologize. I was just trying to see if we could get a time extension for the overpayment notices that have been sent out to the public who have applied for benefits, and possibly the previous employers are falsifying documents and trying to hide amidst the chaos that has happened in the business world, according, due to the COVID set off that has affected everything.
Well, I can note, so we have those comments noted here for the record. I also know that we have our leadership team from the UI division, and we have your contact information. We're going to connect you together after this meeting to attempt to address those specific issues, if that works for you.
Yes, sir, that's perfect. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We also have Rebecca Merrill. Go ahead and unmute yourself and then.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come before you. Later today, I believe you're going to be ruling on UI cases on docket 48, and my husband's case is on that docket. And I'm here today to ask you, as you rule, to please consider the facts in the case. The facts were developed in our appeal that we wrote to the tribunal. We had our hearing and we tried to draw the facts out there as well. I was very disappointed when the tribunal decision came out and it completely failed to address how the facts in the situation fit with the law. There was no discussion of the unique facts of my husband's case. And I won't rehash it all, that would be inappropriate and take too much time. But the facts of the matter are that my husband was let go from a summer position with a school employer, but it was not his regular academic year position. And there was just summations made in the tribunal decision that he had a reasonable assurance of returning to the job. That was not correct, as the facts will show. His summer position was completely different than his academic year position. And so I really believe in looking at the statute and looking at also the precedent manual that y'all put out. There's a case, TEC versus Child Inc., that I referenced in my appeal to the commission, that the decision made by the tribunal is inconsistent with your precedent. And I just really feel like the facts need to be examined. I would encourage you to please take a look at the information if you haven't yet before you rule. I really do appreciate the work of the commission. When I appeared before y'all in September and asked if we could please get things moving, your staff was extremely responsive. And so thank you for that. I just don't understand how a decision could be made without addressing how these facts are different than the facts the statute is intended to address. And I don't want to be cryptic, but I don't know how much I can go into, right? So I just want to be respectful of your time and of the fact that you do have the case before you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Merrill. And with that, Commissioners, we'll ready to move on to the docket this morning.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
Let's start with agenda item 3, but we have no cases to reconsider under agenda item 3. Is that correct?
That is correct. No cases.
Well, then we'll consider tax liability cases under agenda item 4. I think we do have one tax liability case on docket 48.
Yes, sir. It's case TD-19-059-0419. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman,
My vote is to sever the general partnership's unpaid taxes from the limited liability company's unpaid taxes. With respect to the general partnership's unpaid taxes, I vote to agree with staff recommendation. With respect to the LLC's unpaid taxes, I vote to grant the individual hearing under TWC Rule 815.113.
very well. We have a majority vote on the other issues as proposed. We'll mark you as a dissent on this issue, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much.
Jerry, let me make sure I understand the chairman's comments. We were having trouble hearing that. So if Chairman, if you can read that again so that I have the benefit of the team hearing that, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. I'll just read it again in its entirety, if that's okay.
Okay.
My vote is to sever the general partnership's unpaid taxes from the limited liability company's unpaid taxes. With respect to the general partnership's unpaid taxes, I vote to agree with the staff recommendation. With respect to the LLC's unpaid taxes, I vote to grant the individual a hearing under TWC Rule 815.113.
And Jerry, I'll agree with the chairman that that fits with what we want to do.
All right, very well. So we have a majority vote to accept the recommendation with respect to the partnership liability, but grant a hearing on the individual liability of the LLC.
That's correct.
Commissioner Alvarez, did you want
Don't agree.
to, you don't agree with that? Okay, I'll mark you as a dissent. Commissioner?
Let me check real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll dissent on the rehear portion that is severed.
Very well, I have that marked as a dissent.
Thank you, Ms. Thorne.
Thank you. That concludes the tax cases on docket 48.
We have no fair housing cases under agenda 5.
That is correct, no cases.
Let's move to agenda item 6. We have one wage claim case pulled for additional discussion on docket 48.
Yes, sir. It's case number 19-057897-6. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision is not supportable as the record has not been sufficiently developed. It appears that the claimant participated in training with the employer. However, adequate testimony regarding how and when he was paid for training was not taken. The parties dispute the hours the claimant worked. The claimant has attempted to submit photographs of time cards, but they are not legible. The claimant should be given the opportunity to provide legible copies, and the employer should be requested to provide copies of the originals. Additionally, the claimant requested to provide a witness who could testify to the claimant's overtime work. The witness was not available at the third setting because of the confusion over time zone, and the hearing officer did not continue the hearing. This case should be reheard to further develop the record and provide an opportunity for the claimant's witness to testify.
I'm going to agree with Commissioner Alvarez. We should hold a rehearing in this case. It appears that the claimant made a good attempt to have a witness testify, but due to her work schedule, the witness was unable to participate. Her testimony could shed light on the issue of the hours that the claimant worked. And so accordingly, we should hold a rehearing for the purpose of obtaining testimony from the claimant's witness.
Rehear.
Thank you. We will rehear the case. I did send you the wage claim short form dissent list a few moments ago.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 48.
Chairman, I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 48.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 48.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Let's move to agenda item 7, consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 48. Please proceed when you are ready.
Case number 2541325, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant is over 65 years of age and has underlying health conditions. The employer did not dispute the claimant's testimony that they did not provide masks and that there was no separation between the claimant and the customers. The claimant saw her doctor, who told her that she should stay home because of her age and that she should stop working. Since the claimant's separation was a result of the pandemic, she should be eligible for benefits and the employer's account protected from charge. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster, and void adequate response.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant quit her employment. However, based on the claimant's age, her underlying health conditions, her doctor's advice, and the nature of the job requiring frequent interaction with customers, I'd also agree to qualify the claimant for benefits and to protect the employer's account from charge due to disaster. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, separation due to disaster, void adequate response ruling.
Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster, void adequate response.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2566149, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was the only party providing sworn testimony. The claimant testified that the work was temporary and that when she completed the work, she was not offered further work. The precedent cited by the AT applies to work in a student program. There is no evidence this work was performed in a student program, consistent with longstanding commission precedent found in Appeal 2005-CA-76. A claimant who was hired for a temporary job and was not offered further work was discharged for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, void chargeback.
I should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, avoid chargeback.
Modify the AT, no misconduct, void chargeback.
Sure, with short form.
Thank you, Commissioner Demerson. I have your short form.
Thank you.
Case number 2570633, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be modified. I do not dispute that the claimant filed a valid claim. As to the merits, the claimant initiated job separation when she took an unpaid leave of absence from work. The claimant took the leave at the suggestion of her doctor, since her underlying health condition placed her at a higher risk of serious illness if she were to contract COVID-19. Because the claimant initiated the job separation, this case should be rendered under section 207.045 of the Act. However, since the claimant's resignation was due to the disaster, she should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account protected from charge. We should modify the AT decision, valid claim, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, separation due to the disaster.
Ms. Miller, I would agree with the Commissioner Demerson.
Yes, sir.
Agreed.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2578542, Commissioner Demerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. I do not contest the timeliness issue. As to the job separation, the employer stated that the claimant was discharged for abusing the bathroom break and cell phone policies. However, it appears that the final incident consisted of the claimant being sent home due to visiting the restroom too often and remaining in the restroom too long. The claimant stated that he spent quite a bit of time in the restroom because he was not feeling well due to having a stomach bug or food poisoning. As such, the claimant should continue to be qualified for benefits, and the employer's account should be protected from charge since the separation was the result of a medically verifiable illness. We should modify the AT decision, timely claimant appeal, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
Ms. Miller, I would agree with Commissioner Demerson.
Agreed.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2578697, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The employer was not providing basic PPE-like masks to employees. Employees were not being required to wear masks. The claimant quit because the employer was not following basic COVID safety measures. Modify the AT valid claim, no voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
The AT decision should be affirmed. I agree that the claim is valid. On the job separation, the claimant resigned when she removed herself from the schedule. Although the claimant had good personal reasons for quitting, none of the exceptions to disqualification apply to this case. The claimant's initial statements indicate that she quit for childcare reasons, not because her children were ill. Thus, I would not agree to an MBI. I would also not agree to the separation occurred due to the disaster, as generalized fears do not qualify a claimant for benefits, and the claimant did not establish that her working conditions were. Finally, this job separation cannot constitute a quit for urgent, compelling, and necessary reasons, since the reason for resignation was not related as specifically required by statute. To the extent that the claimant had issues with her work environment, she quit before affording the employer an opportunity to address her concerns. Based on these facts, the claimant should be deemed to have quit without good cause connected with the work. Consequently, we should affirm the AT decision, valid claim, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Affirm the AT, valid claim, voluntary leaving, void chargeback, memo to UIO and CS to investigate the claimant's eligibility for a PUA claim.
Agree with that.
Short form dissent.
Commissioner Alvarez, I have your short form dissent, and we will send a memo to investigate PUA eligibility.
Case number 2579431, Commissioner Alvarez.
I agree the claimant had good cause for her non-appearance. Regarding the job separation, the claimant left the country due to family emergency. She consulted with her manager, who approved her leave and instructed her to track the work she performed. She maintained contact with her manager while out. When she returned, she went over her work with her manager, who instructed her how to fill out her hours and approved them. After receiving an anonymous tip 2 months later, the employer investigated and determined the claimant could not prove the work she performed. The employer's systems deleted the emails after 2 months, and the claimant had no reason to keep her handwritten work. Although the employer alleges no employees were allowed to work out of the country, no evidence has been provided to show that the claimant was informed of such policy. Since the claimant was unaware of any rules she allegedly violated, got pre-approval to work out of the country, maintained daily contact, reviewed her hours with her manager and submitted them per his instructions, and was approved for pay by her manager, the claimant did not commit misconduct connected with the work. Modify the AT good cause, no misconduct, void chargeback, and adequate response ruling.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant had good cause for a non-appearance. As to the job separation, the weight of the evidence establishes that the claimant falsified her time card and payroll adjustments in violation of the employer's code of conduct policy. The claimant did not provide the employer with sufficient documentation or proof of work performed, and the employer's investigation did not support the claimant's assertions. The claimant mismanaged her position of employment, and we should modify the AT decision. The claimant had good cause for a non-appearance, misconduct, void the chargeback, inadequate response rulings, and correct the disqualification start date.
Modify the AT, claim established good cause for AT1, misconduct, void chargeback, and adequate response rulings, and correct the disqualification start date.
Ms. Miller, short form dissent.
Yes, sir. I have your dissent.
Case number 2588374, Commissioner Dimerson.
Commission should grant a rehearing in this case. The claimant was referenced by both parties in this case and was involved in key aspects of the claimant's working relationship with the employer. The employer stated that the supervisor was unavailable for the hearing and repeated this contention in its appeal to the commission. Since testimony from the claimant supervisor would be useful in resolving the conflict between the parties' contention in this case, we should hold a rehearing for testimony from the claimant's supervisor.
The AT decision should be affirmed. I agree that the claimant filed a valid claim as an unemployed individual. The claimant was discharged after he had a number of absences due to personal illness. The claimant kept in contact with the supervisor while he was absent and had permission to be absent. He was nevertheless discharged by the employer. While the employer contends that the claimant resigned verbally to his supervisor, the supervisor did not testify in the AT hearing, and the claimant denied the allegation. The claimant's credible testimony established that he was discharged by the employer after he was absent from work for personal illness and with permission from his supervisor. He was not discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT valid claim, no misconduct chargeback.
Affirm the AT valid claim, no misconduct chargeback.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2590543, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed. The employer stated that the claimant had previously been working full-time, but then transitioned to a PRN employee. There is no indication that the employer was the party to suggest or require this transition. While the employer also stated that the claimant was required to work a minimum of 2 8-hour shifts per month, this appears to be more of a requirement to retain PRN status with the employer rather than a definitive dates in the future of when work could be expected. Since there is no indication that the employer was the party to first suggest the claimant transition from full-time to PRN status, any appearance of subsequent unemployment should be the claimant's burden to bear. We should therefore reverse the AT, reimburse the employer, not bill. In the alternative, if my fellow commissioners are not yet convinced that it was not the employer to initiate the claimant's transition from full-time status to PRN, we could conduct a rehearing for testimony directly on this point, since the employer references it in further detail in its appeal to the commission.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant was separated from employment with the employer when she was temporarily furloughed due to the reduction of available work as a result of the pandemic. The claimant's separation was for reasons that were not disqualifying, and the employer therefore should be billed. Affirm the AT bill reimbursing employer.
Reverse the AT, reimbursing employer, not billed.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2595820, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. Prior to filing her PUA claim, the claimant last performed services for her neighbor. The services included looking after his elderly mother and other odd jobs while the neighbor was working away from home as an over-the-road driver. Her neighbor then lost his job. The neighbor then lost his job due to the pandemic, which meant he no longer had a need for the claimant's services or the funds to continue to pay her. As such, the claimant lost work as a result of the pandemic, and she should be qualified for PUA benefits. Additionally, a memo should be sent to UIO and CS to review whether the claimant's PUA claim can be backdated.
There is insufficient information to determine whether the AT decision is supportable. Although the claimant answered no to the PUA eligibility questions relating to COVID-19, those pertain to the first PUA eligibility option in the CARES Act, but not to the second. Under section 2102, lowercase a3, uppercase a, lowercase Roman numeral 2, uppercase Roman numeral 2 of the CARES Act, an individual may be eligible for PUA benefits if she is self-employed, is seeking part-time employment, does not have sufficient work history, or otherwise would not qualify for regular unemployment or extended benefits under the state or federal law or pandemic emergency unemployment compensation under section 2107 and meets the requirements of subclause 1. Subclause 1 refers to the able and available requirements. We should have this case resubmitted with an analysis from the General Counsel's office of whether the claimant meets the requirements of the second PUA eligibility option in the CARES Act.
Reverse the AT, claimant is eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance.
Chair, short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Alvarez, we will send a memo to UIO and CS to look at possibly backdating the PUA claim.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Case number 2602546, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The issue in this case is wages from the named employer, a construction company. The testimony about the wages from the New Mexico is immaterial. The records need to be developed on why the wages from the construction company were removed. Were they used on a prior claim? Was there an identity theft issue, making it appear that they had been used on a claim? Was there a location of service issues causing them to be reported in a different state? The record in this case has not been developed in a manner that a decision can be rendered at this time. I ask for a rehear.
Well, I agree that the claimant can file a valid unemployment claim in only one state, that a claimant cannot use the same wages for two different UI claims in two states. It appears that the procedures for helping a claimant establish a combined wage claim may not have been followed in this claimant situation. It is unclear whether the claimant is being assisted by Texas and New Mexico in filing one valid combined wage claim that takes into account the wage credits earned in each state. Under federal UI law, the burden is not on the claimant to properly set up a combined wage claim. The burden is on the states to work out. Accordingly, we should send a memo to UIO and CS instructing that department to work with its counterpart in New Mexico, determine whether the claimant can file a claim in either state that properly accounts for all of his wage credits, and report the outcome to the commission so that this appeal can be resubmitted.
I concur with Commissioner Demerson.
Very well. We will resubmit the case after sending the memo to UIO and CS.
Case number 2605908, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. There were 3 positive cases of COVID-19 at the job site. The employer was not providing PPE and distancing was not an option. The employer gathered the employees together to inform them of the COVID-19 cases and gave everyone the option of leaving the job site if they were concerned. Based on these circumstances, the claimant's choice to accept the employer's solution and leave the job site was reasonable. The employer's account should remain protected from charge since the separation was a result of the disaster. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback due to the disaster, and sever the validity of claim issue.
I would agree that the claimant quit due to the disaster. As such, the claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account protected from chargeback. You should modify the T decision, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, separation due to disaster, and sever the validity of claim issue.
Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster, sever validity of claim issue.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2606307, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant contends that he was laid off due to a lack of work, while the employer argues that the claimant quit. The AT decision concluded that the claimant quit when work was available without any analysis of the parties' respective credibility. The employer's witnesses provided conflicting testimony in the AT hearing, while the claimant was provided consistent statements that he was laid off. The employer's president contradicted himself in his testimony. He initially stated that the employer never heard from the claimant again after he was first contacted the employer, but then went on to describe subsequent conversations with the claimant about possible jobs. He acknowledged that 2 of the possible jobs fell through, which corroborates the claimant's testimony. The employer has never provided any specific information about what jobs were supposedly offered to the claimant that he refused. The preponderance of the evidence establishes that the claimant was laid off by the employer because they had no work available due to the decline in business. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The employer's witness credibly testified that the claimant quit when he failed to accept available work from the employer. The claimant's testimony stating otherwise is not credible since his fact-finding statements differ from his testimony. Since the evidence does not support that the claimant had good cause to refuse the other assignments, he should be deemed to have quit without work-connected good cause. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
And we're short form dissent, Sherry, and then a short form with a memo to UIO and CS to investigate the claimant's ability to work.
Yes, sir. I have that short form dissent and we will send that memo.
Case number 2608064, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant is considered a volunteer under the National and Community Service Act of 1990. The claimant's time volunteering should not be considered hours worked for the purposes of Section 201.091E of the Act. Claimants are not required to report time volunteering as worked hours. Reverse the AT customary full-time hours eligible.
This case should be held pending a memo from the General Counsel's office. The memo should explore whether or not the claimant's earnings that she acquired in the capacity that she described are earnings that she would need to report on her payment request. And if so, to what extent that impacts the claimant's qualification for benefits under customary full-time hours analysis. Accordingly, we should hold this case pending a memo from the General Counsel's office for the reasons so stated. In addition, in light of the claimant stating that she volunteered 40 hours during the period in question in this case, we should also send a memo to UIO and CS to investigate whether the claimant is available for full-time work.
Reverse the AT, customary full-time hours eligible. I'd also concur in the memo to UIO and CS to investigate claimant's availability for work.
And a short form dissent, Sherry. Please.
Yes, sir. Short form dissent and the memo will go to UIO and CS.
Case number 2612563, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant's appeal should be deemed timely because it fits the timeliness exception for wage credit issues. Regarding the reasonable assurance issue, the employer testified that they did not send the claimant a letter of reasonable assurance. Additionally, the claimant was working during the summer and was then laid off due to the lack of work. Since the claimant was working during the summer session, he was not between academic terms and his wage credit should not be suppressed. Modify the AT, timely appeal, no reasonable assurance.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. I agree that the claimant's appeal should be deemed timely. Regarding reasonable assurance, both parties stated that the claimant had reasonable assurance of returning to work. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. Timely claimant appeal. The claimant had reasonable assurance beginning June 14th, 2020 and ending August 15th, 2020.
I concur with Commissioner Alvarez.
Okay, and what short form dissent, Sherry?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dimerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2612943, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. The claimant was unable to work due to an injury. The claimant attempted to provide the medical documentation to the employer in a timely manner. The claimant left work due to a medically verified illness. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback NBI. In the alternative, if my fellow commissioners are unconvinced by the claimant's sworn testimony about the attempts to provide the employer with documents, the case should be reheard to consider the evidence of the timely facts of documents to the employer provided by the claimant's commission appeal.
Yeah, appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant did not provide the employer with the paperwork it required to properly document and process the claimant's leave by the deadline date to do so. The claimant also did not request an extension. Accordingly, since the claimant opted to not protect her job by failing to follow the employer's instructions, she quit without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no charge back.
I would agree to the rehearing.
Very well. We will rehear the case.
Case number 2620017, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. Prior to filing his initial claim, the claimant worked 2 jobs. The claimant was separated from one employer and filed his initial claim while continuing to work at his other job. Section 209.091E of the Act is clear that customary full-time hours are based on what is standard full-time work for the individual, not whether any particular job is considered full-time by the employer. The claimant normally works 2 jobs, and he worked about half the hours that normally worked during the weeks ending June 6th through June 13th. The approximately 33 hours per week he is currently working is not his customary full-time hours. Modified customary full-time hours not eligible 4/5/20 to 4/11/20. Customary full-time hours eligible 5/31/20 to 6/6/20. Customary full-time hours eligible 6/7/20 to 6/13/20.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant's testimony and wage records included in the claimant's appeal to the commission established that the claimant was working full-time hours from 1 job for the weeks in question. The guidance from the Office of General Counsel applies to cases where a claimant customarily worked 2 part-time jobs. In the present case, the claimant customarily worked 2 full-time jobs. Therefore, because the claimant continued to work his full-time hours for the reference weeks, he should be held ineligible. We should affirm the AT decision, customary full-time hours not eligible for the following 3 weeks: April the 5th, 2020 through April 11th, 2020, May 31st, 2020 through June 6th, 2020, and June 7th, 2020 through June 13th, 2020. I also agree that a memo should be sent to UIO and CS regarding the accuracy of the claimant's reported earnings.
Reverse the AT, customary full-time hours eligible, memo to UIO and CS to investigate whether earnings reported by the claimant are correct.
Short form dissent.
All right, one moment, please.
Ms. Miller, if it helps, I will agree with Chairman Daniel.
Yes, sir, that does help clarify the vote. We have a majority vote to reverse all of those determinations eligible on all of the customary full-time hour determinations. Commissioner Demerson, did you say short form dissent?
I did.
All right, and then memo, you still want the memo?
Still want the memo regarding the accuracy of the claimant's reported earnings.
Yes, we will send that.
Thank you.
Case number 263-8204, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant has consistently maintained that she called the employer and reported her availability. The employer's witness testified that the claimant failed to report to a center and sign a log. The employer's written policy is in evidence, and it does not state that the claimant was required to report her availability in person or that she must sign in. Because the claimant complied with the employer's reporting policy by calling and reporting her availability, she was laid off due to a lack of work when the employer failed to offer her more work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void, adequate response.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant worked for the employer, a temporary staffing agency. The claimant signed an employment contract that notified her she must report back to the business the next business day for reassignment. To do so, her unemployment benefits may be jeopardized. The claimant did not report back as instructed. Without work-connected good cause, and we should modify the AT decision. Voluntary leaving, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Modify the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez, I have that dissent. And that is the last pulled case, UI pulled case for docket 48. You should have received the UI short form dissent list earlier in the meeting.
Move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases for docket 48.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 48.
In favor of the chairman's motion, except the cases for which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 48.
The motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda item 3 through 7. Let's pause for a few moments to reset for the rest of the meeting.
Thanks, Sherry. Team.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, Chairman, I'm back.
There we are.
All right. We'll get Commissioner Alvarez in just a second, probably.
Yeah. All right. Looks like everybody's packed. Let's move to agenda item 8, discussion, consideration, possible action regarding the acceptance of budgets for board contract year 2020 and 2021 child care matching funds.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Travis Weaver, Workforce Development Division. Annually, local workforce development boards submit local match pledges to secure federal child care funds pursuant to Commission Rule 80917. This will be a standing agenda item as boards may continue to submit match agreements through January 31st, 2021. Commissioners, a couple of comments prior to our request. Today's agenda includes 20 match agreements from 10 boards, which includes Central Texas, Deep East, Golden Crescent, Gulf Coast, Lower Rio, North Texas, Panhandle, Permian Basin, South Texas, and Tarrant County. 12 boards have secured a portion of match, with 10 securing at least 50% of their total. Of the 10, 7 boards have secured their match for 2021, and 2 have exceeded their local match target. To date, boards have secured 22.66% of their statewide childcare match target compared to 17.70% at this time last year. Boards have not notified TWC of any issues securing BCY 21 match at this point. One item of note, Permian Basin annually submits 6 match agreements. However, one of their long-term partners was not able to participate this year. Due to the increase of $46,320 made by Midland College from last year's pledge, the board was able to secure their BCY 21 local match target. We appreciate when other longstanding partners step up to assist our boards with their local match effort. Today, staff requests commission acceptance of child care pledges for donations, transfers, and certifications of expense for BCY 21 in the amount of $7,498,471. Commissioners, this concludes my comments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
Chairman, no comments here.
I'd just like to commend the boards on this work at 22% versus 17 last year at the same time dealing in this pandemic. It's commendable. Good work to the team out there.
Thank you, sir.
We have a motion on this issue.
Commissioners, I move that we accept child care match in the amount of $7,498,471 for board contract year 2021.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is agenda item 9, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding a child care statewide initiative to fund the child care industry partnership program.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Allison Wilson, Child Care and Early Learning Division. Industry partners that are private employers or corporate foundations have an interest in making investments that promote early education and a strong foundation for the future workforce. Through the creation of a child care industry partnership program, TWC and the boards can leverage these private investments with Child Care and Development Fund dollars to support public-private partnerships that improve the quality of child care and early learning. Similar to TWC's Texas Industry Partnership Program, a child care industry partnership program would provide a 100% match of local cash contributions donated by industry partners. Through a rolling application process, boards will be able to submit CCIP proposals, and TWC will provide matching funds to support approved projects. TWC will grant both donated and matching funds to the board for implementation of the proposed activities. As described in the discussion paper, successful applications will support the strategic development and expansion of high-quality childcare and early learning, excluding direct childcare services. At the state level, TWC can also use these private donations as excess federal match, which may allow TWC to secure unmatched federal funds made available by other states who are unable to meet their state's federal match target. Staff seeks direction on launching a childcare industry partnership program in January with $5 million in CCDF statewide funds to be made available until funds are depleted. Funding matching grants based on partner cash match donations provided by industry partners as detailed in the discussion paper. We're requiring that donated funds be transferred to TWC and accepted by the commission in an open posted meeting and subsequently granted to the board along with matching funds. Using the privately donated funds as excess federal match and ensuring that donors understand CCDF regulations for privately donated funds. If approved, this program will be launched in mid-January, which will provide time for staff to review the program with boards, issue guidance, and post the application documentation on the TWC website. And that concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Right. Commissioners, if I could, I'm advised that there may be a public commenter on this issue. I think this would be a good time to hear public comment. Ms. Wilson, stand by. We may have some questions for you.
Yes, we have Melanie Rubin. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself and who you represent.
Thank you, Chairman Daniel, Commissioners Alvarez and Demerson, and Mr. Cerna for all you do and for this opportunity to provide input on the proposed childcare industry partnership program. I am Melanie Rubin, Director of the Dallas Early Education Alliance. The Alliance is a collaboration of early education providers, researchers, community leaders, advocates, and service providers who are working together to ensure the accessibility of high-quality early education for all Texas children. As you know, the childcare industry is important to Texas and to Texans on three dimensions: to employ a workforce, to enable parents to work, and to provide an environment in which children can build a successful foundation, optimize their potential, and ultimately contribute to our future labor market. The COVID-19 pandemic has further highlighted the necessity and fragility of the childcare industry. We particularly appreciate the responsiveness of the Texas Workforce Commission to step in and step up to support the professionals, children, families, communities, and our economy. TWC's creative thinking and effective management of the subsidized childcare program reflect a deep understanding of the newly presented challenges to an already strained system. We are again impressed and appreciative of the innovative proposed program that will undoubtedly effectively incentivize both the philanthropic and corporate communities to strategically contribute to sustaining high-quality childcare. We appreciate the structure of this program, which allows for local flexibility and the ability to prioritize local needs. The program has been thoughtfully developed to ensure that both the local and the federally matched dollars are used in ways that will make a significant difference. All this at a critical time in which the childcare providers are hanging on a thread to stay in business. Clearly, the childcare industry is essential to the success of our Texas economy. With all the current challenges, programs like this that engage new partners and cleverly layer funding is essential. We appreciate your focus to ensure that the childcare industry not only survives during this challenging time, but that Texas parents can go to work knowing that their children have access to high-quality early learning to maximize their potential. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, any comments or questions from Ms. Wilson?
Chairman, if I may, I would agree with Ms. Rubin. I want to thank her for her comments and all she does for early child care, I couldn't agree more. I am totally impressed with this initiative, the CCIP program. Great idea. When I read this discussion paper some time back, I was impressed with what we were doing. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Wilson and her team and of course, Reagan Miller and everybody for what they're doing for our young, I would say a future workforce, but thank you for that. This is a great program and I'm actually looking forward to seeing the results of this program. So thank you, Chairman.
Chairman, I want to agree with Commissioner Alvarez and thank Ms. Rubin for her comments. This program simulates the TIP program that we had for years when that was started, and it was Entergy, an employer in our Texas community that actually stepped out and you had an opportunity to leverage funds like that. Marilyn Smith and that team in Beaumont, that was the first one done, and that program has proved to be quite successful. And so applaud Allison Reagan and that team, Ed, for thinking, being creative, and innovative in this pressing need. And my promise to the team is to work with the employers. If this program is successfully developed, I want to do my role, do my part to make sure that employers are aware of it and they take advantage of the leveraging opportunities that could exist with this program.
Great. Do we have a motion on this issue?
Chairman, I move that the commission launch a child care industry partnership program beginning in January of 2021 with $5 million in CDDF state funds to be awarded to the boards on a first-come, first-served basis as discussed and used as matching funds for private donations that are made by industry partners as outlined by staff in materials and consistent with 45 CFR section 98.55.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Show the vote is enthusiastically unanimous. All right, thank you, everyone. Let's move to agenda item 10. This is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the 2021 unemployment insurance tax plan. He must be waiting on his intro music, Mr. Sherman.
I understand. That's what I was wondering. Unless he's having technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Alvarez always has music available. You can put it on.
Earth,
It's
Wind,
not
and
too
Fire. Let's do it right now.
There we go.
No, I'm looking for him right now to see if he's got it.
Hold on, I apologize. Are you waiting on me?
Here he is.
We kind of have a mixed up. Can we come back to this agenda item in just a second? Finance,
Sure.
Mr.
Yep.
Nelson.
How
But
much
we'll
time?
definitely get it queued up. Sorry about that.
All right, I'm going to move to 11. I'll come back to 10.
Okay.
This is agenda item 11, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the acknowledgement of gifts and donations of $500 or more in value given to the Texas Workforce Commission in accordance with section 302021 of the Texas Labor Code and chapter 575 of the Texas Government Code.
Good morning. This is Callie Eichner. For the record, I'm presenting on behalf of the Office of General Counsel. Under relevant authority in Texas Government Code Chapter 575 and in Texas Labor Code Section 301.021, the Commission must accept gifts and donations with a value of $500 or more in an open meeting. For the fourth quarter of 2020, the only gift or donation with a value of $500 or more is a donation to the agency from the IKEA U.S. Community Foundation with a value of $4,900,125. This donation will be used to help fund various TWC efforts that support Texans in the wake of the hardship caused by COVID-19. Please note that in the materials, page 5 contains a resolution to be signed by commissioners for acceptance of the donation. Page 6 contains a description of the donation, and pages 7 through 11 contain a donation agreement that has been developed and reviewed in accordance with 40 Texas Administrative Code Section 800.9. OGC has conducted our review and determined that the donation meets statutory requirements. Accordingly, staff recommends acceptance of the donation. I'm available for any questions.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
And here, good brief, Callie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're going to take a vote on this, but let me comment ahead of the vote. I'll be voting to accept the gift, and I can't say enough about IKEA Community Foundation and their commitment to the Texas workforce and all the Texans that are out there working, whether at IKEA or at the workforce at large. I sincerely appreciate their effort here. It's a wonderful opportunity for an employer to get sort of very involved with workforce issues and programs, and I'm thankful for that. Any additional comments or questions before we move to a motion?
None here, Chairman, but I agree with you as well.
All right, do we have a motion on this issue?
I move that we acknowledge and accept gifts and donations of $500 or more in value given to the Texas Workforce Commission.
Second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous on the vote. Thank you. All right, we're ready to tackle 10, or do we move to 12?
I think let's go ahead and move to 12.
All right, this is agenda item 12, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the report to the Texas Legislature on the educational and employment outcomes of students participating in the adult education and literacy programs required by Texas Labor Code Section 215002C and Rider 45 Appropriations Act 86, Texas Legislature Records.
Good morning, Chair Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Serna. For the record, my name is Fabiana Ramirez, Program Specialist with Adult Education and Literacy. Senate Bill 307, passed by the 83rd Texas Legislature regular session, requires that the TWC report education and employment outcomes for the adult education and literacy program by December 1st of every even-numbered year. Rider 45 of House Bill 1, passed by the 86th Texas Legislature regular session, requires TWC to report also on adult literacy activities and performance measures as well. Rider 45 further requires that the report, quote, identify the types of literacy programs conducted by providers and the measurable outcomes on literacy performed by the program, end quote. This report provides a description of the AEL grantees, the types of services provided by grantees, an overview of how AEL programs measure the skill advancements of students, and the literacy gains made by participants in AEL program year 2019 and 2020. Also provided is a summary of the educational and employment outcomes as provided in the performance measures table. At this time, staff seeks direction on submission of this report to the Texas Legislature to fulfill the reporting requirements under Labor Code Chapter 315 and House Bills Rider 45 as passed by the 86th Texas Legislature regular session. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
No, good report, Fabiano.
Just a quick thing, Mr. Chairman, I want to commend the staff on you guys listening to the legislative body last session and really addressing those concerns in this report. I appreciate that being done. And then secondly, you may want to look at, we have the 2020 results, and you may look at comparing that to 2019. We may not be hitting the numbers that we had back in 2019, and that may be due to this pandemic, but that's something that you might want to bring out either in this report or just have it with you just in case asked, how does this compare to 2019? You have those responses available.
All right, do we have a motion?
That is noted. Thank you.
Do we have a motion on this issue?
Chairman, I move that we approve the report as discussed.
Second the motion.
Been moved, seconded, and vote unanimous. Thank you.
We're ready, Mr. Chairman, on item 10.
I'd like to pick up item 10, discussion, consideration, possible action regarding the 2021 unemployment insurance tax rate plan.
Hey, good morning, Commissioner. For the record, Clay Cole, Unemployment Insurance. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Clay.
So this is discussion paper on 2021 tax rates for the 2021 tax rate year. Background, the commission normally sets rates in November each year for the upcoming calendar year tax rates, and the Texas Unemployment Compensation Act provides the methodology and allowable flexibility the commission has in setting employer tax rates. Tax notices would normally go out on or around December 10th for the 2021 year. The commission must compute the replenishment ratio for each calendar year before the date of the first contribution payment with respect to wages for employment paid in the year due April 1st, 2021. Once computed for the year, the replenishment ratio may not be adjusted. To notify employers by the statutory deadline, rates would need to be calculated no later than February 2021. In general tax rate, general tax rate, the general tax rate is comprised of two factors, the benefit ratio and replenishment ratio. The benefit ratio is designed to recoup effectively charged benefits from experience-rated employers over a 3-year period. The replenishment ratio is designed to cover 1/2 of the non-effective charges in the current year. The general tax year is the product of these two ratios. The general tax rate has a maximum rate of 6%. Amounts over the employer's maximum rate become non-effective charges used in the replenishment ratio and replenishment tax. The commission has no authority to adjust the general tax rate. The decision point today is we need the commission to decide, because the commission has no authority to adjust the general tax rate. There are still factors that could affect the replenishment ratio to reduce the replenishment ratio for tax year 2021. There are two current options available regarding the general tax rate, and those options are: 1, calculate the general tax rate with the current data and statute as scheduled, and then 2, plan for the calculation of the replenishment ratio in February 2021 to allow the commission more time to explore other options that could reduce the replenishment ratio. Publishing the replenishment ratio in February would affect the timeline for issuing all tax rates. And that's my presentation, but we need the decision on those 2 points that I outlined: to calculate the general tax rate with the current data statute as scheduled in December, or plan for the calculation of the replenishment ratio in February 2021 to allow the commission more time to explore other options that could reduce the replenishment ratio for Texas employers.
All right, comments or questions?
Chairman, if I may, could I hear if you all have any comments prior to me maybe making any remarks on this particular issue?
Commissioner Demerson?
Yeah, sure. I first of all, I want to thank Clay and Chris and Randy, the team, and Ed. Just grateful that we have such a deep bench, especially dealing with the situation that's facing us right now. I, as representing the employers, appreciate the fact of allowing time. The team has been out talking about payroll tax 101 for some time, kind of knowing that we would have an impact to our state in some form or fashion. And so the decisions or the options that the team is bringing forward to us allow us the opportunity to take action in that regard. And I'll be supporting or moving towards delaying this so that we can actually, or pushing this back so that we're in a position to give employers even more time and make ourselves, put ourselves in a position where we're looking at all of the available options that are out there for such a meaningful and complex situation. So taking the time to do that, I appreciate the team bringing us these options forward.
Yeah, my only comment would be similar in the sense that I think there are still some unexplored options here, some things we need to understand better, and I would be in favor of moving this to February.
Chairman, I would agree with both of you as well.
Yeah, we do need a motion on this.
Chairman, I move that we delay setting the 2021 UI tax rates as discussed.
I second that motion.
All right, I'm going to restate the motion. The motion is for us, we will not set the tax rate until February 2021. As discussed by staff and the commissioners, that motion's been moved and seconded. And I think it's safe to say we're unanimous on this vote.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioners.
What was that at the end?
Just thank you, Commissioners.
For your patience.
Commissioners, this is going to bring us back to agenda item 13, which is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding adoption of amendments to 40 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 800 and Chapter 805 to implement House Bill 3 and House Bill 1949 from the 86th Legislature regular session. These were previously published for public comment September 25th, 2020 issue of the Texas Register.
Good morning, Commissioners and Mr. Cerna. Again, for the record, my name is Fabiana Ramirez, Program Specialist with Adult Education and Literacy. Commissioners, before you today for your consideration are for adoption our final rule amendments to Chapter 800 and rule development under Chapter 805. House Bill 1949 and House Bill 3, both enacted by the 86th Texas Legislature regular session, require TWC to develop rules. The legislation under House Bill 3 relates to TWC's implementation of a high school equivalency subsidy program with funds transferred from the Texas Education Agency. Legislation passed under House Bill 1949 relates to performance-based funding criteria for adult education and literacy programs. In an open meeting on September 8th, the Commission approved the proposed rules amendment to Chapters 800 and 805 of the Texas Administrative Code to implement this legislation. The proposed rule amendments were published in the September 25th issue of the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. TWC did not receive comments on the proposed rules, and therefore the final rules include no changes. At this time, staff seeks Commission action regarding the adoption of the Chapter 800 and Chapter 805 rule amendments as included in today's meeting notebook materials, items 13A and 13B, and is published on the agency's website. Should the Commission adopt these rules, staff requests the ability to make minor non-substantive changes to the document in order to comply with publication requirements of the Texas Register and the Office of the Secretary of State. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions?
No, again, thank you, Fabiana.
None here.
All right, do we have a motion?
Chairman, I move that we adopt the Chapter 800 and 805 rules relating to the AEO program as discussed.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you. This is agenda item 14, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding adoption of amendments to 40 TAC Chapter 802. Previously published for public comment in October 2nd, 2020 issue of the Texas Register.
Good morning, Commissioners and Mr. Cerna. Again, for the record, I'm Fabiana Ramirez with Adult Education and Literacy. Before you today for your consideration for adoption are final rule amendments to Chapter 802, Integrity of the Texas Workforce System. In an open meeting on September 15, 2020, the Commission approved proposed amendments to Chapter 802, Subchapter I, regarding rules regarding the annual workforce awards. The proposed rule amendments were published in the October 2nd issue of the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. TWC did not receive comments on the proposed rules. Therefore, the final rules include no changes. Staff seeks commission action regarding the adoption of the Chapter 802, Subchapter I rule amendments as included in today's meeting notebook materials and as published on the agency's website. Should the commission adopt these rules, staff requests the ability to make minor non-substantive changes to the document in order to comply with the publication requirements of the Texas Register and the Office of the Secretary of State. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None here. Good work, Fabiana. We keep seeing talk. Good work.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the modifications to Chapter 802, Integrity of the Workforce Systems, as discussed by staff.
I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
On agenda item 15, staff has nothing to present for this item. On item 16, our COVID-19 report. Do we have anything under item 16 this week?
No, sir, we don't.
Let's see. This will take us to agenda item 17, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding approval of local workforce development board nominees.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration, our workforce board nominations for Workforce Solutions Capital Area, Concho Valley, Greater Dallas, and Rural Capital Area. Staff recommends that all nominees be approved, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None here. I was going to tease Tamara a little bit, but I don't think I'll do it. So no other questions here. One of her. Here.
Is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I move that we approve the board nominees for Capital Area, Concho Valley, Greater Dallas, and Rural Capital Area.
I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
On agenda item 18, there's nothing to present for legislative proposals. Agenda item 19, I don't believe there's a legislative report today. And that brings item 20, the executive director's report.
Just one quick report, but I'll have Cheryl Fuller present just a quick note to the commission for me. Cheryl.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Smith. I have just a quick update for you. You may recall that WIOA regulations established a very specific requirement for what can count as a pre-employment transition service for students with disabilities. And at a commission meeting earlier this summer, Commissioner Alvarez indicated that he was going to send a letter to our federal oversight agency to express the value of pre-apprenticeship as a service that for students with disabilities and encourage them to allow that service as a pre-employment transition service to students. We did last week receive a response to the commissioner's letter from RSA. They did indicate that we may use the funds for pre-employment transition services to offer pre-apprenticeship to students with disabilities, so long as the activities are designed consistent with the federal regulations and the previously issued guidance from the Department of Labor about what constitutes a quality pre-apprenticeship program. So we are evaluating that information from RSA. We were encouraged by their response because it does open the door to expanding the services we can offer students with disabilities through our program. So we just wanted to make you aware of that and let you know we're looking at their response in detail.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments?
I just want to thank Cheryl. She's been working on this for a couple of years now. So Cheryl, thank you and your team for being able to put that together. And I look forward to the results of having more folks with a disability go through an apprenticeship program. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to just say congratulations on moving that forward, Commissioner Alvarez. That's a heck of an initiative. And again, it just provides employers with another option, and it serves the disabled community in a big way. So another option there. Congratulations on getting it that far.
So I know we've had an opportunity to talk to folks like Jason Shaw, who's putting together a program, apprenticeship program with ACC. And I know he's been working with Cheryl and her team. So I want to thank the commissioners for this. I think it's certainly outside the box thinking. And so again, Cheryl, thank you for that, for the work that you've done to put this through and make this possible. So thank you. You should be commended for it.
All right, thank you.
I have nothing else, sir.
All right, thank you very much. The time is 10:16. Texas Workforce Commission is going into executive session via Teams to discuss the appointment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of the executive director, internal auditor, executive staff, or other personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074A1.